But the thing is, what do you do though? What do you actually do to make this a possibility? Welcome back, lads. Welcome back. And today's episode, we are talking about it all starts with marketing. And let me explain how I got to this idea. This recording took place in November, and we just had our midterm elections in the United States. And I was looking at the results and I noticed there's just blue versus red. And this is nothing new. This is not something that anybody should be surprised about. But I asked the question myself, I asked myself the question, why do other parties don't have so much share in the House and presidential election, whatever? And I was really curious of how this is actually happening as it is, because I'm from Germany, and I would say we have about 10% is one not popular party, then you have another 10% for another unpopular party, and then some 5% and 6% or something. But we have exposure to the public to all those parties. So most of the people in Germany knew or knows about the differences between those 4, 5, 6 parties we have. Here in the US, I'm a dual citizen, so I'm able to vote, and I was surprised that I only get exposed to Democratic Party and Republican Party, which is okay, but I was really curious about this. And so as I was living here, and I'm here in the United States for about 6 years now, as of this recording, and I realized I'm not really surprised about this result because the media does not cover any other party. The media basically just talks about how bad Republicans are or how bad Democrats are or how good someone is versus Democratic Party. So they're basically just exchanging, those two parties or comparing those two parties. And that brings me to media coverage, right? So if you think about this, and before I dive into, I just want to say this episode is a little bit shorter than usual. Just a heads up, it's a little bit shorter. There's not much to talk about this because it really varies from individual to individual, but the principle is always the same. So if you have questions, leave a comment or send me a DM on social media or send me an email with your question regarding your idea or like the marketing kind of side of this, and I can definitely have a look over it. But ultimately, we cover the personal life that also covers the relationship or love relationship, like you love life, right? Business, product or service. It all has to do with marketing. And now let's get back to the media coverage, because I think the thing about coverage is it gives a lot of exposure to a lot of eyeballs. And if you think about it, so many people are watching the news or watching the election, right? So in that sense, you have free marketing to all those millions of people. And then basically I've seen it now multiple times where you have like conversions from someone is Republican turns into a Democrat, and from a Democrat goes into a Republican. Why is it not into a different party? And this is something I got curious about. So ultimately, what you want to see is exposure. And so exposure, you get it in like a few ways. And I think Alex Hormozy, I'm gonna link this down below too. He's talking about those 4 different types of exposure. You know somebody, you talk to one-on-one like with somebody. You don't know somebody, but you talk one-on-one. You know people in a group, you talk to those. And then you don't know people you don't know, which means ads, advertising, and media coverage. So this is the biggest one that you have, right? And but yeah, that's the thing with exposure. So the thing about this is another great example. The user base of Twitter, oh yeah, as of this recording, or the time at this recording, Twitter got bought by Elon Musk. He walked in with a sink into the headquarters to Twitter, and he basically just said, let that sink in. I think it was hilarious. But what that did was ultimately driving a lot of traffic to Twitter. And the active users got increased by about 5 to 10%, I think. I don't know the exact number. A link is also down below for the article about this. And I just think this is hilarious because bad publicity is not a thing. There is just publicity. And I say this because if you watched, again, one of those last episodes when we talk about The Wolf of Wall Street, right? Jordan Belfort, there is one scene where he got introduced as the Wolf of Wall Street, and his wife at this time said, well, this is not a bad thing, it's a good thing. And he was so outraged and so mad and angry about this term that he's like the wolf and bad person. And then funny enough, he gets so much more attention with a lot of people who desire to be like him. And this is where it kind of clicked for him, right? But what I want to say is marketing is the differentiator if you want to be successful versus you want to be average or a failure. And I put this into failure and average in one bucket at this thing because that's basically what it is. If you do not understand marketing, if you don't value marketing, you as a business owner, you as an artist, you will be unknown and therefore you will not be a very famous person, right? There are some exceptions, but ultimately the odds or like the norm is going to be not successful. And so what I want to say is this. If you desire to become known, and because this podcast is for business owners or investors, or not, yeah, it's also for investors, but I think this doesn't apply really for you. But for people who have a side hustle or want to sell a product or service, this is basically what you need to focus on. Get in your mind, like burn this into your mind, in the back of your head, say, people need to know what I do. And if people don't know what I do, how can I expect them to get their business, right? So ultimately, what I want you to do is take a look at what you want to do, right? Take a look and see how well known you want to be. And for me, I have desires to be known for a specific industry, and I do what I can to get there. And so if you wanna get successful, quote unquote, with marketing, with your side hustle, with your business, you need to understand marketing. And now I need to ask you the question, do you do any marketing? What do you do in terms of marketing? Do you talk to people about what you do? Do you talk to people what you can do for other people? Or do you just do the product or service? And do you believe that the product markets itself? And this is the most common flaw most business owners have here in today's world, is they have social media. This is a free advertising opportunity to reach a lot of people. While yes, it is free, it is a trade-off for time essentially. But technically it's free, and you are able to reach millions, if not thousands of millions of people, thousands of millions, billions. But you have the ability to reach thousands, if not millions of people that can or would love to buy your product or service. But the thing is, what do you do though? What do you actually do to make this a possibility? Do you just have an account and just let it sit there? yeah, this will not work because this is not what social, quote unquote, media means. Social media just means you gotta be social with it. You gotta like be out there and socialize with other people and with your potential clients and prospects and whatnot, right? Now, there's one question you should ask yourself, and I want you to ask this question. You can pause this. Okay, this is what you're gonna do. This is here a little homework for you now. If you are a business owner, if you are a person who started a side hustle, if you are an artist or some content creator, right? Pause this after this instruction, pause this video and ask you those two questions. First, am I clear of what I do? And can I put it out there in words and like packages in words that people understand? People understand what I'm going to offer or what I'm offering, right? And then the second thing is, what do I do that people can find me? And it doesn't have to be ads. It does not have to be ads. I think even me as an advertising agency or a marketing agency, I do not fully support just ads, because if you rely just on ads, the moment you stop running ads, your business flops again. So this is not a thing. However, what do you do to get the word out? And I do not want to hear word of mouth because that works for me. Good, fine. But this is not sustainable. This is not trackable. You don't know who's actually referring you, or you. If that person moves away, then all this other things goes away too. Like, think about this. Ask those two questions, right? Am I clear of what I offer and what my services are, what I do? And then the second thing is, what do I do that people get to know me? Do I let the product or service speak for itself, which is, by the way, the worst thing you can do? Or do you actually promote it in person form, that you go out in public, say, hey, I do this and this. If you know somebody, feel free to lead them my way. Stuff like this. But ask those two questions, because if you're not clear with your words, then talking to people about your services doesn't matter, because people don't understand what you are doing. On the other hand, if you are clear with your words, and this is basically what I was struggling with, I had the definition of what I do, but I didn't really talk about people because I'm a very introverted person. Now I get out in public, I go to my gym and start talking to people and practice my public speaking skills, right? And I realized, I'm not even that clear. I refine it, make it a little bit better, and start talking to people. And yes, I get referrals word of mouth like this, but it's not the point here. The point is that you got to be both. Be clear with the message and then deliver the message to a lot of people. And the more people you reach at the same time, the better it is. That's why running ads is so successful, because you see a lot of results early on, versus if you put out content, then the platform needs to see that you are actually putting content out there, and you have to be frequent, and then it's platform specific, right? So there are a lot of things in the back end in terms of content creation and public, like building a brand in the online or social media world. Yes, but do you do any of this? Because if you don't do any of this, then you cannot expect to have more success than you currently have. And that's why I don't really say it's unsuccessful, a failure in terms of business. But if you don't have a clientele or something running, then it's going to be hard for you to sustain this. So if you're new, an entrepreneur, or like you start making music or whatever, get the word out. Try to find collaborations, and collaborations are a great way to market yourself to new audiences, right? So this is what the podcast is also kind of showing. We bring interview guests on the show and we just talk about things. So I get exposed, or like this podcast gets exposed to their audience, right? And then their audience can listen to our podcast, and then we may interview a different host. So we kind of have like an exchange going on there. But ultimately, what I want you to do is take a look at what you currently do and then think of what could I do better. And obviously, if you need social media help and you are happen to be in the automotive industry, hey, I'm I can help you out there. But yeah, that's basically what it is. There is a nice book that talks about this step by step, and it's basically a marketing driven product or service that they offer or launched, and it just made like a case study out of this. But this book is called The Lean Startup. Link is also down in the description. But basically what they do is they take an idea, make the messaging correct, right, and clear, and short, and brief, and very nice and solid, and then sell this. And then once people get, okay, this is what they want to see, and then they build the software around this, right? But first they did the marketing. They get the word out to a lot of people, and then people respond, and they can form like an idea into reality. And again, I just want to make a little ad here for my own building in public kind of journey, or like, yeah, journey. It's building in public. Link is also down in the description, niklasharitos.com/blog. And you can just follow along when building this entire automotive imperium, because I have a specific goal in mind I want to reach within the next 5 years. And I put everything now into all the baskets I need to get there. And this is just what I keep track on. My ideas, my thought processes, my personal life, my financial life, like everything is in the blog and like in the build in public kind of thing. And I'm also writing right now the entire journey of this entire thing when it starts back in 2016. But yeah, if you want to check it out, follow along, subscribe would definitely be, the bottom of my heart would be absolutely appreciated. But ultimately, that's what the episode is all about. It's about marketing. You need to understand that this has a lot to do with your personal life, with business, your product or service. I think product and service we covered pretty well-rounded, right? And business as well. So personal life. Let's talk about business, personal life. Two things: friendships, family. Actually, family. No, has nothing to do with marketing. But friendships and your romantic relationships, or like your love life. So if you think of, let's just paint the picture here. You're in a bar. I usually don't go to bars because it's not my favorite environment here. But let's just assume you are in the bar and you're just a security camera. Just imagine yourself, you identify yourself as a camera. Just kidding. But you observe basically the entire dynamic within the bar. You have a pretty beautiful lady on the bar, sitting by herself, and maybe with a friend. And then there's a guy, there are like three guys. So the one guy who is standing across the room, looking at her, not talking to her, just looking at her and think like, she's hot, Cool. That's nice that you have identified what you want, because that's what you're basically looking at, right? But there's no action. You can be the most lovey-dovey, loving person in the human history. You could be rich to the max, but you don't talk to that person. I can guarantee you that the woman will not see you. You're across the room, and you can be the most valuable man. I can guarantee you, the woman will not take a look at you. The woman will never ever get to you and say, you know what, I know that you are the most valuable man. I would love to be with you. This is simply not what happens. It can happen, but the likelihood that this will happen is extremely slim, extremely slim. So let's do the next candidate, right? He's a very, very extroverted person, or he's confident or whatever. He's not really shy. Maybe he's an introvert as well. But he is willing to go to the lady and talk to her. It depends on how confident or how slick he is, like how smooth he can make this conversation go off or not. The woman gets interested in him. So the values might be trashy. Let's say the values, what he has in terms of life, sustainability, and his intentions are shitty, right? He still succeeds to close the deal because he went up to the person and made it possible, right? So the marketing of his strategy was just talking to the woman, right? Now let's talk about, and they essentially break up because his values and intentions were just about maybe sex or, stuff that, I don't know, but it's low value or could not provide any value to the woman whatsoever. So now you have the third person. And I think this is what we all try or should try to aim for. Be high of value and become very good at marketing. You walk up, or the third candidate walks up to the girl or to the lady or to the woman, and he has intentions to, be a very committed man. And he has a company, or he works in a very good job. He brings in the money. He has like investments going on. He has a lot of value to offer. So he's walking up to her. He has very nice communication skills. He's basically just trying to get to know her. And they eventually also succeed and go home and whatever. But they will eventually stay together. Let's just assume that she provides values what he wants to. But my point is this, that if you are providing value and you have the marketing and sales aligned, you will become successful. One way or another, you will have the options to drive the best possible outcome. If you're able to talk and you have a lot of value to give, there's no reason somebody would say, well, I pass. There's no reason. There's absolutely no reason for this. So in terms of friends, and this is now the romantic side, so now let's get back to friends. And I found this personally very difficult because I'm from Germany, and when I got here, I had the language barrier and I didn't know how to find friends. So it sounds absolutely stupid, but if you think of removing all your college and school friends, just imagine you remove all those friends and all those connections you made with them, because that counts. What are you left with? And I can almost guarantee you're left with one or two people, basically. Anyways, so I moved out here. I had no friends, and then I started working at Mercedes at a dealership, and I had one friend. I made one friend because I was so curious about him. I tried to, be in the self-development phase, and he was in that same space, so we had like common ground to talk about things. Years later, he told me that it was extremely hard to listen to when I was speaking, which was heartbreaking. No, just kidding. But it was, It's okay, but he was willing to listen to me and listen to what I had to say because I did the same thing to him or for him. And this kind of builds trust over time. But ultimately, what happened was the exposure to him. And I tried to go out, but then you're with like drunk people, and then people are different when they're drunk. So all those connections I made in like those bars pretty much faded away a week after, and I was glad about it. But then I had one person in my work, and I got exposed to him multiple times, basically every day, until we finally got together for yeah a few days, and then it kind of built a really strong friendship out of this. And I think this is very important because that shows that marketing, again, the exposure to people brings you the friendships you desire, right? So in my case, I do have friends all over the world now, and I think it's weird to say, but it allowed me to follow my passions, right? So I want to build the business. So I'm connected with people who building businesses. I am interested in investing. So that's why I have investor friends. Uh, Content creators. I try to get into the content creator thing. That's why building a public is so important to me at this point in time. So I try to reach out to content creators and build relationships around this as well. But it just shows that if you expose yourself to the things you want, you can build friendships out of this. And believe it or not, I did not know. So I left Germany for also a reason that I want to leave certain friends because I liked the person, but the person doesn't bring any value to your life. So it's okay to let fade it off. What I was thinking of was I had to tell them I don't want to be friends with you anymore, which obviously you can do, but ultimately what's the easiest way to do it, and I think we all aim for an easy way out, is just let things fade off by replacing them with new things. And if they're not right fit, they will leave by themselves. So I guess this is a nice way to use marketing in a good fashion, right? Do things you love, connect with people, expose yourself to other people, get to know other people. You never know who they can introduce you to make an impact in your life. And I think this is a great quote to end this episode. Thank you so much for, well, clocking with me, and I'll see you next week.